This is the code review slash showing for the Mars expedition landing on Mars. So over here, I'll probably start off more with the main. So for starters, I wrote down here a couple comments about the objectives of the program just for a reminder. Over here you have a introduction, kind of greet and to show or tell the user what the program's about. And then over here you have, so this clump of code right here is used to detail the user on the spaceship itself. This involves the amount of seats, whether the drone is available or not, the force field capacity, and the model of the spaceship. And then below that should be the status report on the spaceship weapon. So this line of code, or block of code I should say, is will print out the ship weapons, which involve the ammunition, weapon model, the kind of ammunition it has, and whether if those types of ammunition is available through a Boolean variable. And also, as some of these program blocks you'll see is that there's some if-else statements, because as I stated, there are some Boolean variables added. And then below this one is and this one should print out the report status on the base stats, which involve the energy level, oxygen level, base force field, and a Boolean variable on whether the base rover is available or not. And below that is the crew or status report on the crew base, which is all this right here. So this essentially prints out the name of each crew member, the role, the condition of their suit, and the crew's condition. And this is all run. This is where more of the inheritance and the arrays come in hand, as you'll notice that this is running through an array, and as I get more into the video, see how the inheritance gets more involved in this program. And then over here you have the conclusion, and this block of code will essentially provide as a sense of instructions on how to process and produce a status report on each crew member. And this is more involving, so this essentially what will print out the crew member's name, the role, the condition of their suit, and their health status. And this is all more intertwined with the inheritance from other classes. So for the first class that I guess decided to show up is base members. Over here you have a declared variable, an array list, which is connected to the crew status with the members. And then you have the constructor for base members in reference to the object of the variables of the names and back to the array list. Over here you have the base stats, which is over here, more declared variables. This one didn't really involve anything of inheritance, since this was just a bunch of variables with reference to objects, essentially, which were all in that same class, which was the base stats. Over here you have the crew status, which you have the more declared variables, and this is also intertwined with, this has an array list that's correlated to the other class called the crew tool, which I'll get more into the video. Here you have the constructor in presence with the reference to the array list, and then you have a method. You have a method for adding a crew tool. And this is where, actually this is probably where it got the most difficult for me with this program, as I noticed, as I'll get more into the override function that I've never used, but I had to use because of some things that are happening. So over here you have the declared variable, constructor, and then the reference to the description to the object. And then you have the override. So the reason why I had to put an override was because if I were to go back to the main, once the program ran, instead of printing out the words exceptional and healthy, it would actually give me the hash code instead. So I had to go more into thorough research into figuring out why it was giving me the hash code and just a bunch of garbled letters and numbers and not just the words exceptional and healthy. And then it just turned out that I needed just to override the toString method in correlation. So yeah, that's the CrewTool class, which was, I didn't think was going to be the most difficult really, but it turns out to be the most difficult because of the hash code incident I was having. Then over here you have the health status class, which extends to the CrewTool. Over here you have, and this is where you have the constructor for the health status, and over here you have a super in correlation to the string crew condition parameter. And Mars suit, the Mars suit is also extends to the CrewTool. You have the declared variable with the constructor, and over here you also have the a super to recall the parent constructor, and then over here you also have another a this dot to refer to the object of suit condition. And the next class is the ship weapons. So this one was just like the base stats, if I remember right. Yes, like the base stats, and essentially it was just, there was no involvement of inheritance. It was just a constructor that just had a bunch of declared variables before it and was correlated to the appropriate items enlisted within the parameter over here. So as you see, the public int, all these purple fonted letters are all just the declared variables, and over here is just all the items presented in the parameter of the constructor ship weapons. Then you have the final class, which is the spaceship, which also had more declared variables, and this was also just as similar to the ship weapons and base stats class, where there was just no involvement of inheritance, because this was also just the same as just have the declared variables and refer it to the appropriate parameter set by the constructor. So if I go back to main and now run this, so as you see, it printed out the introduction of the program, what it does, and then it starts giving a status report on the spaceship weapons, the base stats, the crew base, and as you can tell, it does print out each and every member, with it being the names, roles, suit condition, and crew health with the actual involvement of the words exceptional and healthy, and not just a bunch of garbled numbers. And over here is just the conclusion of the status report. And that concludes for the code review / showing for the Project 4 Mars Expedition landing on Mars.